To the March 19th, 2019 Parish Planning and Zoning Board meeting. I'd like for y'all to please stand while Coach LaSalle Williams says the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Dear Lord, again, we come thanking Thee for allowing us another blessed day. We ask for Your presence in this meeting tonight, and we pray, oh Heavenly Father, for this board, and pray for the staff. We ask that blessed on those who come seeking our help.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Ms. Christie, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Chair Art Little,
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Armentor,
Here.
Miss Latricia Cobb, Miss Julia Dickerson,
Here.
Miss Sharon Galicia,
Here.
Miss Janelle Hyatt, Mr. Kyle Link, Mr. Jake Porsche,
Here.
Mr. Gary Navarre,
Absolutely.
Mr. Kirk Smith,
Here.
and Mr. LaSalle Williams.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. This is an 11-member board. It will take a majority of those members present to grant or deny any request heard tonight. The chair will refrain from voting unless that vote might affect the outcome. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. The planning staff will give a presentation and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's presentation, or if someone from the audience has comments, please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and the nature of your request. All persons wishing to speak, other than the applicants, need to fill out a blue Request to Appear form located in the back of this room. The form must be given to a staff member prior to the reading of the agenda item. As required by this board's bylaws, in all cases, the proponents will be limited to 10 minutes. Opponents will be granted 10 minutes as well, with each speaker allowed no more than 3 minutes. I recommend that a spokesperson be selected if there is a large group wanting to speak on the same agenda item. If 4 or more speakers' request forms are submitted, the time allotted for individual speakers will be limited based upon the number of forms submitted. The chair has the right to limit speakers who present redundant information or personal attacks. In unique situations, the chair may extend or the board may vote to extend the time allotted for speakers. After discussion, the board will vote on each request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. The exceptions requests are final tonight. The rezoning cases will go before the police jury for final action on March the 21st, 2019 at the 5:30 p.m. meeting. This meeting is being filmed by Calcasieu Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesday and Thursday following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the website at www.cppj.net. Channel 5 in Lake Charles, Sulphur, Moss Bluff, Westlake, Vinton, DeQuincy, and Gillis, and Channel 99 in Corliss and Grand Lake. At this time, please turn off your cell phones or silence them. The first item of business on the agenda, item number 5, is take appropriate action to approve the minutes of the February 19th, 2019 Planning and Zoning meeting. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Navarre, seconded by Mr. Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. At this time, I would like to advise that agenda item number 12, RZ 02190119, a request by J&P Land Development, has been withdrawn from this agenda meeting tonight. So I just want to let anyone that may be here for that, let them know that that has been withdrawn.
That'd been the only controversial one.
Agenda item number 6, take appropriate action on RZ 121801110, a request by Dale White Sr. to rezone from general commercial C2 to recreational vehicle park R-RVP to allow a recreational vehicle park 4 spaces at 1948 Horseman Road in Ward 7. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Dickerson and a second by Mr. Navarre. Ms. Wallace, would you please?
This property is located in the Vinton area and encompasses 1.86 acres. Currently on the property are a house and 4 recreational vehicles. According to our aerial photos, the RV spaces were installed between 2014 and 2016 without benefit of permits. Late last year, our office became aware of the RVs and began violation proceedings. In order to come into compliance, the applicant approached the Department of Health regarding sewer disposal and found that he would be required to install a larger system to serve more than 2 RVs. Because our ordinance requires an RV park to have 3 or more spaces, the applicant is requesting a maximum of 4 spaces, but only intends to utilize 2 in order to avoid installation of a new disposal system. He has already disconnected 2 of the RVs from utilities. Furthermore, if the request is approved by the police jury, the applicant will request a variance at the board's April meeting due to the fact that the lot does not meet the 2-acre minimum required for RV parks outside the urban service area. We have not received any written opposition to this request. Because the development is not consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be denied. Should the board grant the request, the staff recommends the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided the director may authorize adjustments in light of technical or engineering considerations, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development to minimize intrusion onto surrounding properties, that RV park model types are prohibited, that screening must be provided along the south property line in accordance with Section 2650 of the Parish Code prior to any final electrical approval, that solid waste disposal must be privately funded, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, and that a permit must be obtained within 30 days.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? If you would, please come up to the podium and state your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Dale White Sr., and my address is 7809 West Salmon Road, Abbeville, Louisiana. I have sent a revised plan and a letter that I would like for y'all to read, if that's possible. I don't know if Ms. Tammy has submitted it to y'all. Well, the rules read from the zoning and development, which I didn't know that I was in default of any ordinance when I built these things. But the rules read, a seasonal use can be on site for no longer than 180 days. And that's what I have now. This is a seasonal thing. I train horses. We're there from October to the middle of March, which is about 160 days. And recreational vehicle park consists of 3 or more recreational vehicles. And since I just have 2 or less, I should not fall under vehicle park.
Clarification on that in just a second.
And the state has approved 2 recreational vehicles plus my house with the sewer system that I have installed.
Okay. Do we have any, go ahead, Mr. Navarre.
You put these in without any permits?
Well, I had acquired a permit for the house, and when I first put them in, I put 2 spots in. But I didn't,
Without a permit, you put your 2 spots in for commercial use without
well, I
a
didn't
permit.
realize it was commercial because these are people that work with me, you know. I didn't know I was in any violation. I paid my fine, and I'm trying to do the right thing.
Ms. Wallace, can we get a clarification on what he had read? Is
On
that-
the seasonal uses, the ordinance does allow for that in some zonings. I don't particularly see it in this zoning, but typically it's gonna be like your fireworks stands, where
Another-
it's just for the Christmas season or 4th of July. They come in and they get a special license.
Holiday seasons, basically?
Yes, they get a special license for that, so it wouldn't really fall under this type of use. And the ordinance does state that an RV park has to be 3 spaces or more. So basically, the choice that this gentleman has is either to just pull all of them out or to become an RV park. That's the 2 choices that he has. There's no choice within the ordinance where just 2 spaces are allowed without it being in a park, if that makes sense. So
Well, that's,
Not even for 180 days, and then pull them out and come back after 6 months and back and forth.
the
That doesn't
ordinance
work.
doesn't allow
Okay.
that, no.
The other, Mr. Jake?
So the situation's the same whether it's 2 or 4?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. But,
For the sewer.
but like I said, the gentleman found out that the state would require this very expensive, I think it's a commercial system.
yes.
If he has more than the 2 connected.
Right.
So he doesn't want to have to install the new sewer system. And a few years ago, we had a similar situation in the Westlake area where a gentleman asked for a 6 space, but I think the health unit was kicking in for the larger system. And you guys allowed it, but he was only permitted to have what the health unit said he could have. So this wouldn't be the first time a situation like this had occurred.
Okay, not to put y'all on the spot, but if the original motion was for 2 spaces, would the parish look at that differently as far as approving or denying as far as the recommendation?
So you're
Just
saying to
curious.
limit it? Well,
Yeah, if it was 2.
Well, technically, he's limited to 2 because he won't be able to get a permit for any more without DHH.
Okay.
So
And it's a seasonal thing.
regardless of whatever stipulations are imposed.
But just what you said, that
regarding-
had been done before, so I mean, there's precedent for allowing 2 in this situation?
I don't remember if it was 2, but it was a lower number because the applicant wasn't able to install the greater sewer system.
Okay. That's all in question.
Or?
Correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like every month from around the racetrack area, somebody wants to come in with 3 or 4 spots for horse trainers. And instead of somebody, they got RV parks around there.
Yeah, but they're
We've
full.
approved, excuse me, sir, I've got the
Oh,
floor.
I'm sorry.
We've approved RV parks that's never been finished. And now everybody's wanting these 3 and 4 spots. You know,
Yes, sir.
I think we've got enough spots myself.
Mr. White? Yes, sir, you have.
I want to bring something to y'all's attention. The Horseman generates a lot of money for Calcasieu Parish. Just this year, from October to March, just on the claiming of horses was over $3 million. Of that $3 million, y'all have received 5 3/4% to Calcasieu Parish, just on the claiming. Now, that's not the gambling and all the other stuff that is generated by the
I
Horseman.
understand that, but so have the horsemen made lots of money also. So they ought to open a big park,
Well,
you know, or put in a
If
bigger
y'all-
system.
Do you have anything else in regards to your request on the park itself?
no, sir.
Thank you. Any other board members? Yes, sir, Mr. Armington.
I'm really wondering where he come up with like he was reading something that stated this, 180 days, move in, move out. Is he reading that from somewhere, an ordinance or something that we have?
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm looking for
I mean,
myself.
you have that in your hands, you
Hang
can
on, let me see.
supply copies of that? I'm really curious as to.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
just to remind everybody, we're still talking about land use. You
Right.
have to remember it's land use. If you approve the rezoning, we're not limiting it, you're approving it as an RV park. So just want to remind everybody, that's what the issue is.
Correct. Thank you.
Not a doubt.
If you want to give me just a second.
Sure.
What he's referencing is a recreational vehicle. The definition, basically, it says that it's designed primarily not for use as a permanent dwelling, but as a temporary living quarter for recreational camping, travel, or seasonal use, and can be on site for no longer than 180 consecutive days. So that's a recreational vehicle definition for one recreational vehicle. And then right below it is recreational vehicle park, where it says an area providing spaces where 3 or more recreational vehicles can be parked. Now, the 180 days is derived from the floodplain requirements from FEMA, because if you develop an RV park within the flood hazard area, FEMA will give you a waiver on the elevation requirements with the stipulation that the RVs are not on the spot for 180 days or more.
So, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. If we wanted to, could we just grant a waiver for 2 RVs and not make it an RV park zoning? So that way no one else could come in and put,
I don't
30
believe
down
that
the
there's
road?
any, it's zoned commercial, so.
but then they have to have enough land
Correct.
for the, so if we approved it, you can't even, you couldn't put 4 anyway, because there's not enough land, because it says on the agenda that you have to come
Well,
back
you
next
couldn't
month.
have an RV park with less than 2 acres.
Right.
That's
and
why
they
it
don't
has to have a
it.
variance.
So
Right,
even if we approve it today, he's got to hurdle next month.
right. Right. Which if he would have gotten his permits in advance.
Right, right, but,
So we're kind of just trying to fix it on the back end.
okay.
Okay, without a doubt, I don't support the RV park, but I was just wondering, is there another, you know, from what he was stating, does he have another avenue that he's gonna
No.
go to y'all
if-
with? That is not,
If he did, we wouldn't be here tonight.
okay, but I mean, you were reading it, he was reading it, but that's not
Yeah.
an option for him.
No.
So, okay.
Any other questions or comment from the board? Ms. Christie, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Porsche?
No.
Ms. Dickerson?
No.
Mr. Armator?
No?
Ms. Cobb? Mr. Smith? Mr. Navarre?
No.
Ms. Galicia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
No.
7 against and 1 for.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Motion fails. Yes, ma'am.
I did not ask Mr. Link. Did I call your name to vote?
No, ma'am, you didn't.
Okay.
Stepped in on you.
No.
8 against and 1 for now.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Motion fails. Agenda item number 7. Take appropriate action on EX 01190043, a request by Craig Guidry for an exception to allow a 3-year extension on an existing boil pit at 7340 Olson Road in Ward 4. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Ms. Cobb,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Link. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located in Carlos and encompasses 11 acres of agricultural zone land. In 2013, the applicant received approval to excavate a 5-acre borrow pit. The approval was granted for the 5-year period following permit issuance, and the permit was issued in February of 2014. Therefore, the approval expired last month. At this time, approximately 1/4 of the 5-acre pit remains to be excavated. Due to an upcoming industrial construction project off of Burton Shipyard Road, The parish engineer has asked the board to grant him authority to modify the haul route if needed. We have not received any written opposition to this request. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with section 26-122 1F4 of the parish code, and that the haul route be subject to change at the discretion of the parish engineer.
Wallace. I will call the applicant and see if he has anything, but we do have a blue card in opposition to this. Does the applicant have anything they need to add to the staff's recommendations? If not, Ms. Denver Gillett? Denise Gullett. Would state your name and address, please.
My name is Denise Gullett. I live at 7328 Olson Road, Sulphur, Louisiana, 70665. I'm not even sure if, I'm not here necessarily to oppose, but they compromised my 2 acres. I live right next door to them and flooded it last year. And I was underwater as deep as mid-calf and ankle, and all the way up to my back door was ankle deep for over a month and a half because of them pumping out this system, that they have dug a ditch on the north side of their property, a little gully, and it overflows and it flows right into my yard and keeps it saturated. So my thing is I don't mind them doing the borrow pit. I just don't want my yard compromised at the cost of this. It took us years to get this yard nice, and now it looks like it's a field again because of the flooding and everything that's taken place in the standing water. I couldn't even push mow my yard because of the water. Now I talked to my police juror in October. My husband and I have been out of state because he's got an out-of-state job, but my sons were living at the property, and that's how I became aware of how bad it was. And so I don't know if I'm at the right place or anything. This is what I am dealing with next to a borrow pit. So, I don't know.
Do we have anything in our ordinances in regards to pumping of water?
Well, when you have these issues between neighbors, that's really not something that we police. That would be a civil matter.
Right.
But it does speak to the operator as far as an extension of whether he should be allowed to do this, as far as the borrow pit. And that's your decision.
Right.
So that's where you have to decide today.
Now, Mr. Guidry and them have not approached me. I didn't get into town until Friday. And I found out. My son had let me know, and I came into town. And they haven't talked to me at all about it. They do know because I talked to them before I even called our police juror about the flooding issue.
Have they made any moves to correct it?
Well, now that I've been back, they have taken a ditch that is to the south of their property and have dug it out somewhat, but no offense. Draining at the best of days is not good anyway. The borrow pit is full at this point. My yard is just now getting to where I might be able to mow it. And they dug a ditch on the north side of the borrow pit to pump it out, which they did not make a area, I guess, to levee it up so it would not compromise my property, which is my property is like an L shape like this, from this way, to stop the water from flooding my property. I'm just north of them. I'm right next door to them.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't know if the owner or the applicant's here.
Is the applicant present tonight?
No, he is not.
Okay.
Well, if he doesn't
But
care enough to show up.
If he'll talk with me, if Craig and Crystal will talk with me, which I don't see why they wouldn't, to see if maybe we could alleviate this.
And I do know that if this thing happens to pass tonight, that you do have other recourses to go to, your police juryman, and he's got some recourses he can go to assist you in that. Mr. Jake?
Question for the staff. So when we approve, like, let's say this is a new borrow pit, is there a drainage impact analysis that's done before permitting for the borrow pit happens? If it was a new pit?
What if it's an extension like this, and this is just an extension of one that they got? Could
So,
we request it?
You may have problems attaching stipulations now to an existing pit. But again, most of these matters will be a private matter.
Would it be better if we postponed it for a month?
That's your decision. And
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone it for a month and see if we can get Mr. Guidry and them to come up and talk with us and agree to what, because we don't want to put this lady underwater.
Nope. In my
Yeah,
opinion,
because I had my foundation to my barn and my shed and even my house, because of the amount of water that's been there, I'm pretty
Right.
sure it's been compromised.
We have a motion on the floor,
Jake had something.
and we need a second to the
I'll
motion.
continue my thought once we vote.
We have a second by Mr. Link. Any other discussion on the motion to postpone? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll postpone this application until next month.
Okay,
And next
thank
month
y'all
will be
so
on a
much.
Monday night.
Okay, thank y'all so very much.
Agenda item number 8. Oh, I'm sorry, Jake.
Question for Mr. Gabb. Does this put the parish in any, you mentioned civil, like, does this put, where does this put the parish if we just automatically extend this thing and then it is a problem?
And you guys decide land use.
Right.
If you believe that the application in front of you is valid and has good reasons for it, you vote on it.
Right.
None of that should get into your minds about what else may happen.
But a lot of our decisions, we make those decisions, we make them with the confidence that the next step is a drainage impact analysis and all that will be checked. This thing, we know we've got a drainage problem and we're just gonna renew it.
Well,
That's my concern.
But again, that's a matter between neighboring landowners, and Louisiana law has protections for owners of estates that are flooded by somebody else.
Sure.
In 2013, when the Planning and Zoning Board granted this request to Craig Guidry, did it have a analysis at that point? So I thought. It was not required at that time. Okay, so since 2013, it's now required. That's what we're.
Right. The new drainage ordinance that was adopted now requires
That helps me.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think we should look when we're just automatically renewing these.
No
if-
one's
if
ever
we've
really
got-
come against it, though.
Right.
Not like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Gabb said, anything before the ordinance was adopted, the drainage ordinance for runoff management for borrow pits, it potentially, it's a civil matter.
Right.
I mean, so unfortunately, those landowners may have to, if this borrow pit operator or the owner has caused damage to that property, then
Could we approve it with the stipulation that it's subject to a drainage impact analysis before renewal?
Again, you have problems there, and we can talk about this all later. I mean, obviously, there's nothing before the board right now. It's been
Right.
deferred. And hopefully, Mr. Guidry
cut
and
off
his
then.
neighbors can get together and answer all these questions. We don't have to review it again.
Right.
But we can talk about that all between now and next meeting.
We're deferring it is because he's not here. We're not deferring it to say we're voting, we didn't want to vote on it.
Well, you guys deferred it for whatever reason y'all had,
Yeah,
but right now,
so-
it's 30 days away, and
Yeah.
hopefully Mr.
Right.
Guidry can get his business in order.
It's nil and void for tonight. Moving
Thank
right
you.
along.
Agenda item number 8, take appropriate action on EX 02190045, a request by Alberto Garcia for an exception to allow residential development, 2 manufactured homes per lot in the 6,000 block of Central Court in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Cobb, seconded by Mr. Navarre. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located southeast of Lake Charles and encompasses nearly 3 acres of single-family residential zone land. The applicant's property consists of 2 lots. If approved, the applicant would place 2 manufactured homes on each lot. Extended family would reside in the homes. We have not received any written opposition to this request. Because the proposed development is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided that the director may authorize adjustments to plans, and that the manufactured homes be skirted prior to the utilities being connected.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? We have no blue cards. Any board members have any questions or concerns? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Moving right along.
Agenda item number 9, take appropriate action on RZ 02190115, a request by Big Lake Road Enterprises LLC to rezone from light commercial C1 to light industrial I1 to allow industrial development, contractor shop and storage yard at 5393 Big Lake Road in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Navarre. Seconded by Ms. Cobb. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located in South Lake Charles and encompasses nearly 4.5 acres of land. Currently on the property is an office building and a storage building. A number of businesses are located within the office building, one of which is a building contractor. The parish code requires that contractor shops and storage yards be zoned industrial, and to come into compliance with the code, this rezoning is necessary. We have not received any written opposition to this request. Because minimal impacts are expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided that the director may authorize adjustments to plans, that all exterior lighting be oriented inward toward the development, that a 6-foot wooden privacy fence or a 6-foot hurricane fence with slats must be installed in accordance with the revised fencing plan within 30 days of approval, and that all machinery and supplies must be stored within the required fencing.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? Would please state your name and address for the records.
My name is Charles Ladner. I'm the owner of the property in question. The only thing that we would like to do is there is a drainage lateral that runs to the north of the property. It would be almost impossible to fence that side because it would interfere with the drainage. But we do propose to go from the back side of the office building and put a line of evergreen trees to the drainage ditch, which would cut the view off of the back from Big Lake Road. The south side of the property is currently being developed, evidently for residences or something, but that elevation of that property has been raised. It's about 5 feet above our property on the back side. If we put a 6-foot fence along that, the fence is not going to even be much higher than the top of the berm. What we're proposing is when the developer builds something, then at that point in time, if he wants a fence, we'll help contribute to it. But a fence right now really wouldn't, if you stand on the other side, you look right across the top of the fence, so it doesn't separate anything.
Amendment, if we wanted to say okay, or?
Check.
I did drive out to the property and take a look. As Mr. Ladner said, I would say it's 5 to 6 feet above, and it's pretty steep. So I agree with what he's saying, and it looks like a lot of that water is shedding across the back of his
It
property.
is, the water's coming across.
that
on it.
could-
We
that
have,
could-
we've constructed a ditch down on our property to intercept that water and run it to the back.
Yeah, so
Now,
that
when
would
he-
bring up more concern for trash and debris coming right over the neighbor's property into catching in his fence. So I just wanted to confirm what he's saying. It's a real situation.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments for Mr. Ladner? Any other questions? Thank you very much. Did ask something about no.
I just asked if we needed to make an amendment.
Well, right now, we're checking to see whether that might have to come later in the form of a variance. So just give us 1 minute.
Probably be easier to stick it in there now.
Well, the code actually requires the screening.
Oh, I see.
We were just asking that you stipulate that it be a fence rather than the landscape. So, 26.
Or buffer, if you,
Yeah, can we put buffer?
yeah.
Okay,
Question for the staff or maybe Mr. Gabb. So that would be a private agreement for him to contribute to a fence later in the future with the other developer, right? We really couldn't stipulate that.
Well, no,
Yeah.
you really couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And that's what Ms. Wallace was talking about, is that the condition is just an adoption of what's already
Right.
required in the ordinance. And it may be that it may be something that has to come back in a variance later, or maybe the police jury can modify it on Thursday night. Right now, I would recommend that if we want to proceed tonight without this fence issue, I would recommend that you guys just recommend or deny whatever you want to do as far as the rezoning, and let the police jury take it from there, because they can amend the ordinance. You guys really can't.
Basically, we'd be approving to rezone from light commercial to light industrial, basically.
Correct. And with the stipulations as well. And then the police jury would then have the power, I think, at that point, if they wanted to amend the ordinance, they could certainly do that.
Sure.
any other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, and I know I've said a lot, and I don't know if Mr. Ladner wants to come up and I don't know if he would prefer a deferral or would rather have you guys vote tonight on the rezoning, but that's just a thought I had.
Mr. Ladner, would you have any comments in regards to what we've just talked about?
Well, my only comment is if we construct a fence, it is not serving any purpose at this time. There's no development by us, and this is probably a 200 to 300 foot strip of property that acts as a buffer between us and the residential areas. Now, on the other side, our property actually crosses the drainage lateral, and if we put a fence on our property line, we're going through people's yards and we have given those people permission on the other side to clean their yard down to the drainage ditch. And I'm gonna have a hard time going and putting a fence up. I would get a lot of objections if I tried to fence it.
And what was stated was the ordinance requires this fencing that is in the application and the recommendations that to vote for it. And then we could, if you wanted to do something in regards to a deferral and get something else in writing from the police jury themselves, because we can't make any changes to the ordinance ourselves.
I can request something in writing from the police jury. Is that correct?
Right.
Thursday, they can amend it. We can approve the zoning, and then they can amend it so you can
You'll
put
be there, so.
a barrier instead of a fence.
Okay.
Is that
So
correct?
if we approve it,
Yes.
You approve it as per the application, then the police jury, they can amend it.
okay,
Thursday.
okay. So, moving right along.
Thank you, Mr.
Have
Ladner.
to attend Thursday night, I guess he knows it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or
It's
comments?
coming up Thursday
Yeah.
for rezoning.
It's coming back up before the police jury on Thursday. Any other questions or comments?
Okay, I just got one comment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand and what we're saying tonight. This is the wrong form to amend the motion. to amend the,
For that stipulation, I would
right.
say yes.
This is the wrong forum for that.
Right.
So Thursday night will be his time to try to get it amended.
That's correct. The
Correct.
police jury can amend the
They
ordinances
can amend the ordinance
if they see,
if they
So
so
fit.
choose.
yes.
Or, yes, so,
The bottom line is the fencing requirement along the south boundary line that you see where the red line is right there, that land, the land use to the south of there is zoned multifamily, residential. So the ordinance requires when you have industrial next to that land use, it
Right.
requires fencing. I can't change that. So we put it as a form of a stipulation in there because we wanted board fencing, okay, or
Privacy
fencing
fence.
with slats. So
Right.
that's why we put it as, normally we wouldn't even have to say anything. We would just, it would be, when he applied for the permit, he would have to do that. So it's sort of an after-the-fact thing. It's being used that way right now, so we're having to come back and rezone the property for that. And so on Thursday night, the police jury is going to have to take action on the rezoning, and then, like Mr. Gabb said, they can amend the fencing
that's, I
requirement.
just want to,
Wes, thank you for that clarification, because that does make a difference. I mean, that fence, I can see now where a fence, if I was gonna buy that land and build a home, I may wanna, you know what I'm saying, even,
Right.
so I appreciate that
And we
clarification.
haven't received any, development plans from the south property owner at this point. Nothing has been submitted, but it's the zoning of that property, since it's multifamily residential, that's what requires the fencing.
okay, so the north side of the property is not requiring any fencing.
It's not, he owns, if you look at the map, the bayou, or the drainage lateral that runs through there, he owns north of that drainage lateral right there. Okay. Typically, we would require some fencing there would be, but it's all wooded right now. It's a wooded piece of property. And so, and I'm not sure if he's rezoning, is he rezoning on the north side? I can't remember if he is. Of the lateral.
Okay, the rezoning's not
Yes.
of
Yeah, it
everything
is.
in yellow then.
Yeah, so, I mean, technically, there would be a requirement where if you look at the zoning map, where it's green. Let me see, if you go back to the zoning map. Okay, right there. See where the two tracts of land that are green just north of his? Okay, those are residentially zoned too, so typically there would be a requirement for screening there as well. He's not developing on that side. It's staying on the south side of that lateral, and it's a natural wooded screen right there, which would be acceptable, for
As a
screening.
screening.
Yeah, for screening.
Right, okay.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Christie, can we have a roll call vote, please, ma'am?
Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
Ms. Cobb, Ms. Galicia,
Yes.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Navarre,
Yes.
Mr. Porsche,
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Link,
Yes.
and Mr. Armentar.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Motion
Nine.
carries.
9-4, I can't get it
9-4.
right today.
Agenda item number 10, take appropriate action on RZ 0219-0117, a request by Vincent Velquez to rezone from mixed residential R2 to light industrial I1 to allow industrial development, contractor shop and storage yard at 213 Goodwin Road in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Have a motion by Ms. Dickerson and seconded by Ms. Cobb. Ms. Wallace?
Property is located immediately north of the city of Lake Charles. In 2016, the police jury rezoned this land to I-1 to allow a storage yard. Because a permit was not issued within a one-year time frame, the zoning automatically reverted to R2. The applicant purchased the land in 2018 to serve as the location of his roofing company. If approved, the applicant will construct an office and warehouse on the property. We have not received any written opposition to this request. Because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided the director may authorize adjustments to plans in light of technical or engineering considerations, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development, that the development adhere to stormwater best management practices, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, and that a local development permit must be obtained within 1 year or property will revert to the original zoning.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? Does the board, any board members have any questions or comments? If not, we have no blue cards. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 11, take appropriate action on RZ 0219-0118, a request by JPAS SAP Company LLC to rezone from agricultural A1 to general commercial C2 to allow commercial development in the 2600 block of Pujo Road in Ward 8. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Have a motion by Ms. Cobb, seconded by Mr. Link. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located in the Clow area and encompasses over 28 acres of land. The applicant recently subdivided the land and would like to sell this portion of the subdivision for commercial use. Our staff recently met with the applicant regarding the request. At that meeting, the applicant agreed with the staff's recommendation to rezone a smaller area of land, which is approximately 8 acres. We have not received any written opposition to this request. And because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that unless modifications are required due to technical or engineering considerations and approved by the director, all uses and improvements must be pursuant to and in strict accordance with all applicable federal, state, and local laws, statutes, ordinances, codes, resolutions, rules, and regulations, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development to minimize intrusion onto surrounding properties, that screening of individual developments must be provided in accordance with Section 2650 of the Parish Code prior to final electrical approval on that specific development, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, that permitting is subject to approval of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, and that only a portion of the land to be rezoned is to be rezoned in accordance with the final zoning map. And I don't know if we'll put the final zoning map.
That one there.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? We have no blue cards. Does any of the board members have any questions or comments? If hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 12, advise that RZ 0219-0119, a request by J&P Land Development LLC to rezone from agricultural A1 to manufactured home park RMHP to allow a manufactured home park 293 spaces at 1634 Bird Nest Road in Ward 1 has been withdrawn. Next item on the agenda is to advise that the police jury took the following action on February 21st with reference to the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Board from February 19th, 2019 meeting. Westlake Mobile Village, South Douglas Parkway. Planning and Zoning approved, police jury upheld. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the next regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting will be held on Monday, April the 15th, 2019, in the police jury meeting room. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Dickerson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye, aye,
opposed,
aye.
nay. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
That's enough.